AOC says Clarence Thomas must be impeached over corruption. Protest in D.C. against oppression of Uyghurs, Turkic minorities. Taraweeh live stream for blind and visually impaired Muslims. Activists call on Raleigh City Council to bring mosque back. CAIR settles 5-year legal battle with Maryland jail. Israeli jets bomb Lebanon and Gaza after rocket attacks. King Charles supports research into royal family slavery ties. Iraqi in Asylum Limbo in Jordan fashion their future. From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said on Thursday that right-wing Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas should be impeached. This was in the wake of ProPublica News exposing the judge's billionaire-funded luxury vacations the same day. Thomas secretly accepted the trips from billionaire Republican donor Harlan Crow virtually every year for more than 2 decades, according to the report. Thomas did not disclose any vacations, which experts and watchdog organizations say is likely a violation of federal law. This is beyond party or partisanship, said Ocasio-Cortez, a New York Democrat, who demanded Thomas's resignation last year amid a separate ethics scandal. She added, "This degree of corruption is shocking, almost cartoonish." Justice Thomas said Friday that he did not disclose luxury travel because he was advised at the time that he did not have to report it. Federal judges may not accept gifts from anyone with business before the court, and they must report all gifts worth more than $415. A rally held in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday protested China's human rights violations against the Turkic Uyghur community in the country's northwest region. Demonstrators gathered outside the White House holding banners reading, "Forced marriage of Uyghur women to Chinese men is mass rape." Uyghur Muslims in East Turkestan, which is also referred to as Xinjiang, have been subjected to years of abuse because of their identity and culture. Last September, the UN released a report on alleged human rights violations against Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities in China. It concluded the country may have committed crimes against humanity. The report found mass detentions in the country's northwest region from 2017 to 2019, as well as credible documentation of torture, sexual violence, forced labor, forced abortions, and sterilizations. The 48-page report concluded serious human rights violations were committed by the Chinese government against the Uyghurs and other Muslims. Several countries have accused China of committing genocide against Uyghurs under the guise of fighting terrorism and extremism. Beijing has denied any wrongdoing, dismissing the allegations as lies and a political virus. This Ramadan, Islam by Touch is hosting a live stream of Taraweeh prayers for blind or otherwise disabled Muslims who are unable to attend prayers in a masjid. Islam by Touch is an organization dedicated to making Islam accessible to the blind community. The group works to provide English translations of the Quran in Braille, as well as create a culture of making the Muslim community accessible to the blind. The Taraweeh prayers are being led by Imam Shpendem Nadzaku, resident scholar and Imam at the Islamic Association of North Texas. There are multiple other barriers to accessibility. The foremost is transportation. Yadira Thabata, who co-founded Islam by Touch with her husband Nadir, said a majority of the blind community lives on a fixed income. She said transportation to a masjid isn't always affordable or accessible. Activists are calling on the Raleigh City Council in North Carolina to deny a rezoning request by Shaw University until it reopens an on-campus mosque. The university initially closed the mosque to the public during the height of the pandemic. Now officials say they don't have plans to reopen it. Nigel Edwards, a mosque board member, said this is no longer an issue of us just being locked out because of a temporary reason. He said the university submitted a rezoning application that would affect the International Studies building where the mosque is housed. Online records show that the application is to turn the building into a high-rise. Edwards said it is unclear what that means for the mosque's future, which was established 40 years ago. University officials said the campus chapel also remains closed to the public. Muslim community members will speak at the Raleigh City Council meeting on Tuesday and ask city officials to step in and bring the mosque back. The Council on American Islamic Relations said it has settled 2 cases brought on behalf of 7 Muslim inmates in Maryland. For years, they were forbidden from praying in groups at Prince George's County Jail. But the prison changed its policies in 2020 to allow Muslims to gather for prayer in groups of 4 or less. More recently, it has allowed Muslims to freely congregate for prayer with others in their housing unit. These developments paved the way for a settlement, which includes a financial payment to the parties. CAIR filed suit in 2018 on behalf of 6 Muslims. At the time, Christians at the jail were able to gather for Bible study and to pray whenever they were outside of their cells. Others were permitted to gather for non-religious reasons like playing sports or for educational purposes. But jail officers treated Muslims differently, preventing them from congregating for any Islamic purpose. Officers also threatened violence against Muslim prisoners if they disobeyed. These cases are 2 of 3 lawsuits CAIR has filed against Prince George's County for violating the rights of Muslims. A pending lawsuit is about a Christians-only job application. A Muslim chaplain was asked to attest to Christian beliefs as a condition of employment. Israel bombed Lebanon and Gaza on Friday. Anti-ballistic missiles and rockets were fired from Gaza in response, triggering sirens in several Israeli towns and cities bordering the area. The latest exchange came after 2 days of attacks by Israeli soldiers on worshippers at Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem and retaliatory rocket attacks on Israel. Al-Aqsa is Islam's 3rd holiest site. 2 Israeli settlers were killed after Palestinian gunmen opened fire on a vehicle in the occupied West Bank. The United States said Thursday its ally Israel had the right to defend itself. The Biden administration staunchly took Israel's side today. U.S. State Department spokesperson Vedant Patel refused to condemn Israel's storming of Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan. He did, however, condemn rocket attacks coming from Gaza and Lebanon. An independent study is underway exploring ties between the British monarchy and the transatlantic slave trade, Buckingham Palace said on Thursday. King Charles, for the first time, publicly signaled his support for the research, which is being conducted by the University of Manchester with historic royal palaces. Buckingham Palace is granting full access to the royal archives and the royal collection, according to media reports. The study is a PhD project by historian Camilla de Koning and is expected to be completed in 2026. The move came after The Guardian published a previously unseen document from 1689. It shows a transfer of 1,000 pounds of shares in the slave-trading Royal African Company to King William III from Edward Colston, the company's deputy governor. The transatlantic slave trade lasted more than 400 years and victimized more than 15 million black men, women, and children. Beginning in the 15th century, the slave trade was in place until the Slave Trade Act of 1807, also known as the Act for the Abolition of the Slave Trade in the British Empire. Slavery in the colonies continued for years, even after the act. Iraqis in asylum limbo in Jordan fashion their future. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. In a Jordanian church, Sarah Nail sews a shirt for a project that has provided scores of women who fled violence in neighboring Iraq with skills to earn a living. Many of the women escaped extreme violence carried out by ISIS across swaths of Iraq and Syria. They eventually ended up in Jordan, where they found themselves without work. That is why Nail, a 25-year-old Christian, joined the Rafidin Sewing Project 2 years ago. It is based at St. Joseph Catholic Church in the Jordanian capital, Amman. Italian priest Mario Cornioli began the project in 2016, along with Italian designers and tailors. The products, including dresses, jackets, belts, and ties, are sold in Amman and Italy to raise funds. For refugees barred from seeking regular work, the project provides them a way to supplement handouts from the United Nations. Since the project started, more than 120 women have benefited. As Pakistan grapples with one of the worst economic crises, millions of its people are struggling to observe Ramadan amid skyrocketing inflation. A viral social media video last week showed a crowd of desperate citizens breaking into and looting a makeshift camp selling staples at subsidized rates in Karachi, the country's largest city. Decades-high inflation and a massive devaluation of the local currency have drastically reduced the already dwindling buying power of millions. This is why the government and charities have begun setting up discount bazaars where people can buy essential food items at 30 to 50% discount during Ramadan. Typically, during the month of fasting, charities arrange street iftars for commuters and the poor. But this year, resources have been shifted from street iftars to discount bazaars so ordinary citizens can get relief. Besides voluntary donations, the government has made it mandatory for all Pakistanis to pay zakat. The United Nations described the treatment of detainees at Guantanamo Bay as worrying and called for the prison's closure without further delay. A new report from the UN Human Rights Council found systematic shortcomings in medical expertise, equipment, treatment, and accommodations at Guantanamo Bay. The document examined the detention of Abdul Hadi al-Iraqi, also known as Nashwan al-Tamir. He is one of the last prisoners held as part of the CIA detention program. In prison, al-Iraqi suffered from a degenerative spinal condition, because of which he now has to use a wheelchair and a walker. UN experts describe this as medical mistreatment. In January, the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights produced a separate report describing how 7 Guantanamo detainees committed suicide between 2002 and 2021. It also noted Guantanamo's unparalleled notoriety for the use of torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatments against detainees. Last year, President Joe Biden announced his administration would close Guantanamo Bay before he left office, but he has taken no further action toward its closure. Before we end today's news, I'd like to make a special request. It takes our team a combined 55 hours of work every day to produce this news for you. It is news with a unique perspective, and you will find it only here. Sound Vision is a not-for-profit organization which produces it. And just like NPR and PBS, it depends on your donations. Please visit MuslimNetwork.tv to donate now, or click the link below to donate. Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit MuslimNetwork.tv. Salam and good night.